Good morning. Welcome to Uncle Benny's Creepy Campfire Stories. This is Uncle Benny on this fine Thursday morning, 6:41 a.m. Eastern Time. Well, the House impeached the peach. The House impeached President Trump of the United States late evening. And there you go. Business as usual. And it's all business. It's about money and power. And let's be reminded that the love of money is the root of all evil, Bible say. The world is a ghetto, and the world is a business. And in that, I want to play something.
Uh-oh, no Wi-Fi at your in-laws' house? It's sweet.
Well, there you go. That's from the movie Network. A movie I've many times recommended to viewers here. I did it very consistently for weeks and weeks at one point through the summer. If you've still not seen that and you were advised to, I can only say shame on you. You came here for a reason. Aren't your steps ordered? Was there any kind of an inclination, oh yeah, maybe I should watch that? Did you just see that? I've already played other clips from that movie if you saw those too or heard them. It really can open your eyes to a lot of things about the way the world works, because the world, in a sense, as Jim Morrison once said, we are ruled by TV. It's mind control. Media homogenizing the minds and the hearts of the entire world. Knows no bound of language or culture. At the impeachment hearings, reporters from all over the world. So this is worldwide news. Why is it important? All the pundits don't believe that the Senate will impeach him and remove him from office. Well, National Public Radio, day after day, in recent weeks has been talking about it, broadcasting it into the night, overriding regular programming, by the way, overriding the regular programming. But you're still being programmed. I talk about it all the time, the art of misdirection. A week ago or so, I played a video during the bumper music, the opening music. Hope you like that, by the way. Very weird scene with all the people holding up their phones, videoing it, you know. Everyone's a journalist these days. Everyone's a videographer. I guess you could say myself included, though I don't walk around with the selfie stick, taking selfies or going to concerts and holding up my phone and filming everything, or watching somebody... just videoing people with my phone because there's a spectacle or an event. At any rate, in the meantime, a week ago, President Trump, along with John Hagee and Alan Dershowitz and the Kushners, among others, passed an anti-Semitism bill for college universities and things like that. And without going into all the implications, I would like to. Well, you know what? I'm going to play this, and I don't think it's very long. I'm going to play this video, and that'll tell you all you need to know at the moment. You can do more homework on it. I didn't think I was going to take the time, but I'd like to see it again myself. Brother Nathaniel, was a Jew, raised Jewish, family Jewish, everything. But he became a Christian, for lack of a better term, or to use a word that people can understand what I mean. And he has been fairly kicked off of YouTube. Is he a shill or anything? I don't think so, because there's something called controlled opposition. But either way, let's listen to what he has to say. If you've never heard of him, his appearance is a bit striking and different. His manners are different. He's entertaining, creative, but even the stones shall cry out.
It's a tradition, l'chaim, Hag Sameach. I have a little dreidel and all that crap. And this year is no different, since Trump did a Hanukkah party last week for 1.8% of the population. Ivanka was there. So was Jared. Lots of sheenies in their beanies, and even Alan Dershowitz brown-nosing and sniveling away. It was the perfect setting for Trump's combating anti-Semitism executive order that gives Jews special entitlements that no other race or religion could ever dream of having.
With one voice, we vow to crush the monstrous evil of anti-Semitism whenever and wherever it appears, and we're working very hard on that. And I can tell you that we have a lot of people in government working very, very hard on that.
Tons of them. Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law. Ivanka, who had a nose job because she didn't want her mother's Jewish schnoz. Steve Mnuchin at Treasury, and Jeffrey Rosen at the DOJ, all who worked very, very hard to give Jews whatever the hell they want. Just like Trump's combating anti-Semitism executive order that pounds yet another nail in the coffin of free speech. That's Robert Kraft, owner of the New England Patriots, with everyone kissing his Jewish ass. He's launching a foundation to fight anti-Semitism, that is to criminalize BDS and all criticism of the Jewish state. Jews hate our freedoms, you know.
For 65 of my 81 years, I have spent at universities all over the country and all over the world. There is no more important event in those 65 years to turn universities away from being bastions of hatred and discrimination than this executive order being signed today.
Once bastions of free speech, universities are now crushers of dissent thanks to Jewish edicts.
It is a game changer. It will go down in history as one of the most important events in the 2,000-year battle against anti-Semitism. Thank you, Mr. President. You did a great, great job. The people who helped you do this did a great, great job, and you will be remembered by history for all time for having signed this very important order. Thank you.
Brown-nosing gets you everywhere, besides in low places and political high places, too. Dershowitz would just love a presidential pardon if the Epstein case ever catches up with him. He's being charged with misdeeds by underage girls, one a frequent flyer on Epstein's Lolita Express. We'll just do it and get it over with.
Okay. Should we do it? Yeah. Hey, guys.
That's John Hagee, like some hanger-on who gets a piece of the dreidel reserved for the goyim. Christians have no business at Hanukkah parties unless they love Jews like Kushner more than they love Jesus.
I just want to thank President Trump for all of his leadership on behalf of America. What we've seen the president accomplish over the last 3 years has been extraordinary. When President Trump decided to run, there were a lot of people who weren't sure what somebody who had never done anything in politics before would do, and I would say that all of our expectations have been greatly exceeded.
Yeah, like moving the embassy to Jerusalem, like granting Israel the Golan Heights, like giving the illegal settlers a license to steal, like keeping U.S. troops in Syria whose oil fields are ripe for Jewish thieving, and not vetoing anti-BDS legislation that makes boycotting Israeli goods illegal in the U.S., but instead aids and abets it with this latest executive order. We looked for America first, but got Israel prime instead. Well, it's all about the Benjamins. Money, media, military, academia. Jewish power is monumental. America doesn't have a white supremacy problem. It has a Jewish supremacy disease. What's a patriot to do? Whip the Jews out of the temple and tell John Hagee he's on the crucifying side of history. Yeah, whip them the hell out. I mean, let's just cut to the chase. Why don't we federalize the Jews and just get it over with? Let's set up a new cabinet position, and since Kushner has his nose in everything, let's make him Secretary of Jewish Privilege. And then we change the preamble to the Declaration of Independence, we the Jews, because we the people have been screwed. America is just a Jewish yenta giving its Jewish children everything they want. Here's what we got to do. First, we register every Jewish lobby, and there are hundreds of them, as agents of a foreign nation, Israel, and criminalize their every treasonous acts. 2, every Jew with dual citizenship must either renounce Israeli citizenship, sign a loyalty oath to America, or be expelled to his Jewish state. 3, no more tax exemptions for synagogues that campaign for their political partisans. If churches can't be political, then neither the synagogue of Satan should be either. I mean, we got a clean house. Let's sweep it clean and bring in sound, historic Christian rule, and 7 Jewish demons worse than the first won't enter back in.
There you go. The Brother Nathaniel channel. He's on Brighteon, if that's how you pronounce it. He left YouTube, or had to leave YouTube. And let that sink in. You know, here is someone speaking truth to power as only he can, as one who was had to leave his entire family, and his family became his enemies because he sought truth, the knowledge of Christ. And his funny outfit is because he's, I believe it's Russian Orthodox. Anyway, as with everything, weigh all things. And I will also add this caveat for him, as I have to do for myself, because Jew is a blanket word, and it shouldn't be. What he is talking about are the Ziocrats, the Talmudic Babylonian type of Jews. I say this all the time, you know. Just because someone is a Jew doesn't mean that they are of this ilk. There are Jews that oppose the state of Israel. Did you know that? There are. Anyway, I would highly recommend watching this again, thinking about what he said. And it's just like the loose string on your sweater. If you start pulling on it, it's going to all come unraveled. Because I have told you many a time, and I've provided links to read some of the books about the subject how far the rot goes. Bible say in Revelation, those who pretend they are Jews but are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. And Brother Nathaniel referenced the synagogue of Satan. Who has synagogues? Well, it's the Jews, right? Well, are all Jews of Satan? Well, we're controlled by one of two spirits in the world. The spirit of unbelief, a.k.a. We're vessels for the powers of darkness, let's say. Let's just say it like that. Jesus turned to Peter and said, "Get thee behind me, Satan," Bible say. He was a disciple. But in that moment, he was being used to sow doubt into the Son of God and push him off his mission. Or we are of the Spirit of the living God, of Christ, being sanctified by his word daily, being led, guided, convicted, having his word brought to remembrance, being tried, tested, the reins of our heart tried, the thoughts of our mind being established, the ways of our steps being directed. So there you go. At any rate, back to the point of this, the art of misdirection. And you heard Brother Nathaniel talk about money, military, all these things, that the powers that shouldn't be, which these people of this ilk, whose God is Lucifer, going all the way up to the top of the very, 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 very small percentage of people who control 99% of the wealth in the world, as it said. Running the world. It's a business. And you and I are human resources like cattle, goat to them, sheep for the slaughter. Goyim, the Goyim. Now, I've not read the Talmud through and through, but I've heard, even out of their own mouths, how they regard you and me, who are not of their tribe, less than human. And our women are shiksas, whores. And they laugh in our face, even on the show, funny show, wicked as all get out. I'd love to do an analysis of it, but who I ain't got time for that right now. There's an episode where they talk about shiksas. I have to go watch it and think about it. You know, in your face. It means basically worthless whore. And it's okay, by the way, for one of these men in that tribe to adulter on his wife with the shiksa because she's not really a woman. I mean, that's how convoluted their laws can be. Or, for example, you can't go a certain distance. I talked about this before. Can't go a certain distance on the Sabbath, but if you sit on but over water, you can go further. And so if you sit on a bottle of water and jump in a cab or a car, you're okay. So it's that kind of legal convoluting, just twisting of things, and perverting things that, well, I don't really know how to finish that thought. It's early. Anyhow, there you go. Let's move on. Let's just move on. It's, and his website is Real Jew News, and I recommend digging in. Let's see. Is this his website or... Actually, I don't... Maybe it is his website. Yeah, it must be. It must be his website, because I know this... Well, okay, the video is hosted on Brighteon, or Brighteon, or however you say it, and he is just featuring his video in his website. So there you go. Brother Nathaniel. I like him. This happens to be rents.com. I've talked before about, instead of reading like the Sludge Report or wherever else you get your news, this is a great source for articles, and it's basically collation of things more on point. I don't agree with everything, same worldview, but I do appreciate, for example, Jeff Rentz will have Brother Nathaniel on his program. He's had other people who are very clearly believe the Bible, but it's not clear to me whether Jeff Rentz does exactly. But he also, it's okay for him to not throw his hat in the ring on certain things, in my opinion. And not, we don't know exactly where he stands, but he is friendly in that regard. Let me put it that way. So anyway, there you go. Here's the Sludge Report for you. Let's get into it. Okay, first thing, impeachment. I talked really all there is to know about that, except one other thing I want to tell you. We got an election year coming up. We've had these primaries going on with the other of the Hegelians. And you heard this word here first, and I'm referring to the Hegelian dialectic. I've decided in the recent days to regard to either of the people on, as they say, both sides of the aisle as Hegelians. Almost like an alien race. Hegelians. What does that mean? Look up the Hegelian dialectic. It's like two wings of the same bird. It's the totalitarian two-step, as David Icke likes to say. It's cause and effect. It's creating a problem and then coming in to solve it. And it's more than that, in my opinion. It's the false dichotomy that is our two-party system of powers that shouldn't be. Goes on year after year after day after day. Every situation, and you're trained and brought into it from an early age, generally through sports. Us versus them. School spirit. You know? We really one nation? Or it's us versus them? Them being the other. One or the other. Really the only choices you're ever given. And who gives you the choice of one or the other? That's the question. Who is putting these people in front of you as these are your only choices, that you vote the lesser of the two evils? Well, then you've basically signed up for a social contract where you can't complain. You have to accept the outcome. Now, the other thing to say about this impeachment, as you go through your day and listen to all the nonsense, I would be looking for Hillary Clinton to enter the race now that this has been accomplished. It's possibly one of the things that's kept her out of it for now. She's going to ride the wave, possibly. I think it'll happen before the trial gets underway. And I don't know. I don't know what her health is. I think there's something seriously strange about that woman. And maybe it's all just for her own vain amusement and narcissistic power that she still gets traction and airtime, and maybe it's just about selling books. But I just can't imagine a race of Trump versus Biden, for example. I just can't envision that. But I can see her coming back in, maybe getting her shot. But I don't really think so. Look what Trump has done for the powers that shouldn't be. Just now, I just played it for you. Why ruin a good thing if it's working? Well, why did they let him impeach? Well, the delusion and illusion of that there's a real force against him needs to be maintained at all costs. It has to, they'll go to grand lengths to keep the illusion that there's two forces fighting each other, and that we live in a time, as all time, as the way the world is, of accidental history being made. Meaning things happen because they happen. May the best man win. Well, I've prayed to know the truth, and I have a promise from the living God to lead me into all truth. And though I don't know all truth, I do know a few things, and one of them is history is conspiratorial. It is created on purpose by powers that shouldn't be, that have been in power and gaining power more and more and more, trying to dominate the human spirit, which craves for truth and freedom, well, when it's being called out of darkness, let's say, and to control it. Anyway, okay, let's move on. Let's whip through some of these. So you got the usual stuff. You've got the Hollywood stuff. You've got UFO stuff. I'd love to, at the end of the year, go through all the archives and see how many articles were on UFOs. How many days of the 36 year did the Sludge Report feature stories on UFOs, stories on perverted stuff? Okay. And again, this is the most conservative news aggregate, or most popular conservative news aggregate in the world. Okay. All right, let's talk about this. 15 horses shot and killed in eastern Kentucky. Well, that's sad. Why are we talking about it? Okay. You'll have to read it. I can't. Well, okay, maybe I can get rid of this. Yep. Let me try to go back to it. I've had it sitting there a long time. Sometimes these pop-ups will be persistent until... Okay, here you go. Calling it very inhumane, very cruel act, is out by some mining site, and somebody shot with a low-caliber rifle. Makes it sound like it was like a .22, which, I don't know. A horse's skull is pretty... Well, I don't know. I'm only speculating. Can you kill a horse with a .22? Yeah, sure. You can kill anything with a .22 if you get it just right spot. But 15 horses? That's a lot of horses. Some are eating, some are pregnant. I don't know what's going on with the story, really. But, the wicked are cruel to their animals. And it doesn't seem like these animals were killed by their owner. Who knows what it was. But, let's see here. Well, this is pure speculation, but that's a lot of horses. Think about it. 15 horses. Unattended? That's kind of weird. Way out somewhere? They're not wild horses running around eastern Kentucky, to my knowledge. Okay. What were they doing? They were killed and up near some strip mine. But there was no surveillance cameras. There was nobody keeping an eye on these horses. There was no one around. We're talking 15 gunshots at least if you killed each one with one shot from a .22 rifle. I don't know what caliber. They just said low caliber. That's what I'm making a reasonable deduction. Could have just been a teenager who's in the developmental phases of becoming a serial killer. That's one route that we're told that serial killers, in their formation, early in their development, they are torturous and cruel to animals. Something to watch out for. At any rate, I'm just saying that, there's something strange about all of these horses dying, and the question in my mind would be, is this a cover story for something? They die for some other reason? Anyway, is this really worth talking about? It just piqued my interest a bit this morning. Like I've told you before, these little headlines, they can waste time on my day. So right now, and it's kind of fun for me in a way. It's a good exercise, get my mind in gear to read a story like this critically, and it's not too long a story. And then you find out that down here they are doing an autopsy, if I can find it again, to determine for sure the cause of their death. Here we go. Veterinarian will reportedly conduct a field necropsy necropsy. I haven't said that word or heard it in a long time, so autopsy, necropsy. You get the idea. On one of the horses this week. On one of the horses. Now that's interesting. He's going to conduct a field necropsy on one of the horses this week to confirm the cause of deaths, plural. Now think about that. That's a discrepancy. And one of the one of the reasons for doing the Sludge Report is to share my way of reading the news with critical thinking, because most people, it seems, don't. Wouldn't be in the state of affairs if people use critical thinking. One of the horses to confirm the cause of deaths, plural. Well, that tells me a guy only needs one horse to be shot to explain something else that maybe is being obfuscated. Just a thought. Pretty unusual for a young person, presumably a man, to go and effectually vandalize the property of someone by killing 15 horses. You know, it used to be a time in this country, if you stole a single horse, you were a horse stealer, a horse thief, you hung from a tree. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And this is eastern Kentucky, where some of the old ways, I believe, are still ingrained. All right, there you go. Moving on. Okay. So this is interesting. Family seek to bring 2-year-old girl back to life through prayer, song, and praise. And that is featured way up here on, it may have changed now. And they may have, here we go. Church seeks to bring girl back to life through prayer. By the way, surveillance footage outside Epstein's cell during suicide attempt is missing. Oh, yeah, really? All this time later? Goes without saying, you know. That's a scandal. Huge scandal. But you know, who can keep up with it all, right? All you need to know is that Epstein didn't hang himself. As I was saying, now it's a meme. It's everywhere. It's great. I mean, I think it's a good thing. But I wish people would also do 9/11 was an inside job and keep talking about things like that. But moreover, I even posit the guy may not be dead at all. He may not be dead at all. He just, this is all a bunch of chess moves, you know? Sometimes you have to move people off the stage. Let's see here. So family and church seem to bring a 2-year girl back to life through prayer, song, and praise. Well, that is a great idea, a great thought. Why is it being offered up to the world on the Drudge Report? Well, it is ridiculous to people who are not of the same faith. It's ridiculous to them. Back in the day, it was either the Sadducees or Pharisees, or probably both, that didn't really believe in life after death. I think I'll have to look back on that, something like that. And it's no different today. There are people who you can't come back from the dead. Well, I've heard it's happened. We know that Paul, reportedly, a young man, when he was preaching, Bible say he fell asleep and fell off from where he was perched up, on a wall or something, and died. And Paul went down and presumably prayed, but laid upon them for a minute or whatever, and brought him back to life. Well, you may not believe that, but that's what's reported. Of course, we know that Jesus, not his real name, not only did he come back to life, and with him he brought hundreds out of their graves and walked around Jerusalem for days. Most people in churchianity don't even know that. But while he was alive, before he was crucified, he brought back Lazarus from the dead. He was dead so long, his sister said he stinks. He's rotting. And also he brought back a little girl who had died. I don't know. It's been a long time since I read through all those books, but there's, he raised the dead. Then he rose from the dead after he was killed. And then others rose with him. And that's how it will be in the end. It was a type and shadow in a lot of ways. Okay? Well, these Christians, bless their hearts, believe that they can do that themselves, that they should be able to do that themselves, or at least that God is still living and still will do these kinds of things. And I've heard of places in Mexico or Africa where this has happened. I've never seen it. I don't know. Do I believe it's possible? Absolutely. I believe it's possible. Is it possible that those stories are all made up? That's possible too. These are a little bit of biblical and faith things that are difficult to know the truth on, because people do die. Children die. Is there something wrong with our faith if we can't solicit God to please this? This is too soon and shouldn't have happened, and we believe you. We love you and we believe in you, and we have faith to believe that you can do this. May it be done unto us, because the living God did things to people for people according to their faith. Anyway, the important thing is that this is being offered up for display. Why? Because it's really news? No. This is a very, very small body of believers relative to the entire of churchianity even. In fact, it's even said here, let's see, right here. Attempting to bring someone back to life is not widely accepted in the Christian faith, but may be more particular to Bethel Church, said Patrick Blewett, Dean of A.W. Tozer Theological Seminary at Simpson University in Redding, that's California. This fits more into Bethel Church and to what they're teaching, Blewett said. Blewett, who knows the family, said it is more common to view death as the next step in life, quoting from 2 Corinthians, which says, "We are confident, I say, and willing rather to be absent from the body," which would mean being dead, "and to be present with the Lord." The Bible associates miracles of resurrection in reference to Jesus, either through his own or in bringing others back to life. And he added that they pray for the family during its time of grief. And those are good words. But, if the girl doesn't come back to life, well, there you go. David had a child that was going to die and sickly, and he lay on his face for days, would not take food, was mourning and praying and soliciting the Lord, whom he walked with, by and large. He was a man after God's own heart, a prophet of God, and king of Israel. And he prayed to raise his child up. But the child died. And this is before he died, to make him well. Well, the child died, and David did not, this is pre-resurrection times with Christ, who overcame sin and death. But nevertheless, he didn't ask God to raise him from the dead. Remember, he's a man after God's own heart. He had prophetic things to say about Christ. So I don't know. I don't condemn him or shame him. Let him pray. Let him pray. There you go. Point is, why is it being offered up on the drudge? Well, I believe it's to make a spectacle of these people. That's all. This should be a private matter. Because I may be wrong, but I don't believe the girl's going to be brought back to life right now. And I think the world believes that, of course. And what's that make these people look like? It makes it look like God is dead. Their prayers are in vain. Their faith is in vain. These people are ridiculous. Just like people who will not rush out to have doctors kill their children, but try to nurse them back to health, and also pray for their well-being. And when the world gets wind of it, they make a spectacle out of them. Same thing. It's an affliction of the righteous. It's a persecution, in a sense. There you go, right here on the Drudge Report. Now, I don't have time to edit my words or go back and this is all unscripted, from shooting from the hip. But, again, this is about when I look at the news, what comes, what I see. All right? Discernment, I think. Trump's impeachment, how it compares to the trial of Bill Clinton. I don't even know why I've got this up here at the moment. I think it was just to confirm the dates. Clinton was on, here we go. Clinton was impeached by the House on December 19th, 1998. And the trial began in the Senate on January 7th. It's funny, back then I didn't pay close attention to that stuff. I remember it, but I didn't watch things like I do now. Well, not that I try to not watch things. Very hard not to, but I still become aware of it. You almost can't hide from it. Let's see here. They talk about Nixon. See also. Let's see. All right, this just seems to focus on Clinton, but there was. Well, that's good enough. So those of you who are into gematria, which is probably none of you, or numerology, you can tell me, what does it mean, December 19th? Kind of interesting. It didn't have to end exactly then. They caused it to. So that's kind of weird. That's kind of like on September 11th, 1991, I think it was, George W. Bush Sr. was looking in the eye of the camera and telling everyone about how they'll be successful with the New World Order. On September 11th, I think it was 1991. And then on September 11th, 2001, start with the fall of the all the towers, not just the Twin Towers, all of them. World Trade 7. Look into that. If you don't believe me, that was an inside job. Look into it. Okay, there you go. American taxpayers will continue funding border walls in the Middle East. This relates back to what I was telling you. Look, I haven't even looked at this yet, but American taxpayers are once again being forced to subsidize border security measures in the Middle East. Now, even right here, this is a mind control technique. They don't say in Israel or in Palestine. Think about that. Foreign countries are sweeping up billions more in U.S. taxpayer. Think about what that means. Most Americans have to work until April 19th, I believe it is, this past year, just to pay their federal taxes. It's a third of the year, slave. Goyim. You getting it now? You stupid animal? You get it? Don't take that personally. We're all fools until we realize we're a fool. Because you know what? When you're stupid and you know that you're stupid, it almost makes you smart. That's the beginning of better days right there. To know that you don't know causes you to know. Okay? Have that for free. All right, I can't be bothered to go through this. I mean, I can kind of just glance around the room and know who's in it. It's the same way with the news, right? Think about it. I don't have to walk up and talk to everybody at the party to know everything about what's going on with them, to know who they are, kind of what they're about, right? Same thing here. It's all you need to know. Even if you just read, this is actually something Jeff Rentz likes to say, if you just went to a site and just read the headlines, you'd know more than most people. Same thing. But I'm offering you something else, a little more insight. In the Middle East, remember, this is Breitbart. This is a conservative news site. This is mind control. What does that mean? It means if you're trusting somebody because they're part of the Hegelian race I'm trying to develop this a little bit. Again, you heard it here first. I'm calling I didn't invent the idea of the Hegelian dialectic or anything, but I'm calling these partisans Hegelians. Hegelians, right? Just like you'd call two opposing teams who play each other in football or soccer, you call them footballers, or soccer players, or boxers, or whatever. These are Hegelians because that's what they're doing. Think about it. That's powerful right there. Just to change your thinking in that small degree. Stop thinking Republicans and Democrats, Democrats, Republicans, Republicans and Democrats, Republicans and Democrats, Democrats, Republicans. Like Michael Savage likes to do occasionally. He says that back and forth. Just never use those words. Say Hegelian A, Hegelian B, maybe. I don't know. I'm working it out myself. Just came up with the idea the other day. Language is important. Language is power. All right. I was almost going to recite a poem. There you go. Look at that wall. That's probably longer from the horizon of this picture, the vantage point here, or vanishing point here of this picture, or whatever you want to call it. Right here where you can't see the fence anymore over the top of this, the crest of this hill. All the way down to the edge of this picture, or same in this picture right here. I am going to, well, here this came up and said Pakistan. But do you think that's where it's going? The middle. Okay, so ostensibly this may be somewhat true, but make no mistake, we're giving Israel $10 million a day reportedly, every day of the year. That comes from your pockets, and it goes to walls in Israel. Now, they're not even talking about that. They're talking about Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, and Tunisia. Okay? Well, they're you can't fool me. Okay? I don't believe that's all that's about. There may be more to this, but the idea is the same. Okay? Actually, this is worse. This is worse. So maybe they left out Israel on purpose. Maybe that's not part of this particular bill. I don't know. The idea is the same. They aren't. You don't hear them talk about. You don't see an article like this. There's another thing. Even if I'm not 100% correct of the reason they put this in here, and didn't say anything about Israel. Well, that could be mind control by omission, which again is a form of art of misdirection, or you never see the funding of Israel in relation to them building walls and quote unquote refugee, aka concentration camps for Palestinians, and the walls and all the things that they do. You don't ever see it framed. American taxpayers continue funding Palestinian persecution, murder, concentration camps in Israel. You don't see that. Okay? Sometimes you got to roll this around your tongue a minute. But only because I hovered over this picture, I saw that this picture is not like a wall in Israel. Its borders, Pakistan, Lebanon, Egypt. Either way, it's the same thing. What happened to your wall in our southern border? We're being inundated on purpose. On purpose. Okay, you know what? These things can get so long because I feel I have to explain it all, and I'm just not prepared to. And if I try to, then I just end up going in rabbit holes, or side trails, let's say. And now here's something that's worth talking about. American Airlines mechanic pleads guilty to sabotaging plane in Miami International. So let me just break it down for you. This guy, let's just call him a guy for now. This guy who was a mechanic sabotaged the navigation system on a flight on an American. He was a mechanic. Now, a little bit about the guy. He lived in California. He commuted to Miami for his job as a mechanic. Isn't that far out? That means he flew a plane, I would presume 5 days a week. He flew a plane from, and as an employee of airlines, a lot of time you can ride jump seat, they call it, or something like that. You don't have to pay for a flight every morning. Probably cheaper in a way. He just drives to the airport, gets on a plane, than if he lived out in Miami and drove to work every day. I don't know. Kind of an interesting part of the story. Just curious part of the story. But he's accused of sabotaging a navigation system on a Miami flight with 150 souls. I say passengers, but 150 souls aboard, and he pled guilty to attempting to destroy the aircraft in a plea agreement designed to avoid a maximum sentence up to 20 years in prison. First of all, a maximum sentence up to 20 years in prison, this to me ought to be death instantly. I mean, as soon as possible. In this country, it means, you die of old age in prison most of the time. But this is so egregious. And so this itself is that's something terrorizing. Many people are afraid to fly even though they fly. Many people, especially if they've never flown before, they have to overcome a fear of flying. Even though statistically they say it's safer than riding in a car, we're more accustomed to riding in a car, so the fear and stress levels are not there. Okay. He says, I admit guilt. Here's where it gets interesting. Not just a guy. He's Abdul Majid Maruf Ahmed Alani. Interesting. And he said it through an interpreter. I didn't even see that before when I got through this article. So this guy is... Now, let's just think this through with me. Abdul Majid Maruf Ahmed Alani doesn't even speak English to the degree that he doesn't need an interpreter in federal court. Yet he's working on the systems of a jet airliner that carries hundreds of people. In this case, 150 passengers. That is astounding, frightening, disgusting, unacceptable, bizarre, questionable. Questions that ought to run up to the stock exchange about who the hell is running American Airlines. Sell my shares. I don't want to be invested in this sick company. Alani, a veteran American Airlines employee, he says he lived in California, commuted to his job in Miami, now faces up to 3 years in prison under a joint recommendation by the U.S. Attorney's Office and his defense lawyer. So it's basically a plea deal. Joint recommendation. Really, 3 years in prison? This gets worse. 3 years in prison? Well, Uncle Benny, nobody died. Yeah, thank God. Now, here's the cover story. First of all, let's say this. Let's establish this. He had a detention hearing after his arrest in September. Federal prosecutors suggested that Alani may have possible links to a Middle East terror group. You think? And that allegation never came up at his plea hearing before the U.S. District Judge Marcia Cook. His defense attorney, Jonathan Meltz, made the point outside the courtroom when asked by reporters about the allegation. This case is only about what you heard in court, said Meltz, who added his client has been leading a law-abiding life for 30 years. Well, yeah, you know what you call a sleeper agent? Somebody who doesn't break the law, doesn't do anything, but they do something when they're called to do it. That's like a logical fallacy. You know, when somebody commits murder for the first time, well, they were law-abiding up until that moment. They didn't murder. You know, what's the difference? I can understand wanting to say, well, he's a good character, but in this case, the guy's name, he's a freaking Arab, doesn't even speak English good enough to just say, his name is Abdul Majid Maruf Ahmed Alani. He's freaking from Iraq. He was just there, as it goes on to say. And anyway, here's the cover story. Alani told federal investigators he disabled the aircraft's navigation system on the morning of July 17th because he was upset over stalled union contract negotiations with the airline. He said he wanted to generate some overtime for maintenance of the plane. Well, that's demented. Alani also said he meant no harm to anyone. However, look how this played out. Miami-Nassau flight was aborted before takeoff after an error alert appeared on the navigation system. Now think this through, right? Let's think it through. This means, at first blush you might say, oh, I get it. He just wanted to keep the aircraft like in the maintenance hangar. That's a lie on the face of it, because the plane, what was he in the bathroom and they wheeled it out? What, would he have to go make a phone call and step outside on his cell phone because the babysitter, I don't know, he's 60, maybe his children are grown, but he got a call from his wife about something going on at the house. The air conditioner's broken. He stepped out for a minute, and the plane snuck out on him before he could keep it from flying. Here we go. Plug your ears, church lady. Bullshit. It's bullshit. I think it would be fair journalism to add a sentence right under here. It says, Alani also said he meant no harm to anyone. And then say under here, factually, any reasonable person could factually see this is bullshit. And that would not be editorial. Oh, you got to make yourself laugh sometimes, okay? So it was aborted before takeoff, right? That means that they were out there, they were taxiing or something, or all systems go, boarding the plane. An error appeared on the navigation system as they're powering up, or maybe as they're taxiing. I don't know. So at Wednesday's hearing, I guess we're going to go through this. Prosecutor summarized the evidence against Alani, stressing that a flight's navigation system was deliberately obstructed with foam and that the aircraft was deemed not airworthy. He was accused of tampering with the plane's so-called air data module, assisting the report's aircraft speed, pitch, and other critical flight data to pilots. I don't know what size the plane was. 150 people is quite, it's a 737 that's not quite full, or it's a smaller aircraft. I'm not sure. But either way, that's a lot of people. It's a lot of people, and it's a big enough aircraft that could cause a lot of problems on the ground if it hit as well. There's all kinds of possible ramifications here, but think of 150 lives that could be wrecked, and by extension, all the people those people are family to, or all the things that their whole lives gone, all their education, experiences, everything killed, gone, because of who? Because of this Iraqi dude, Abdul Majid Maruf Ahmed Alani, who can't even say in English, I admit guilt. He has to have an interpreter, who's working on the navigation systems of planes that you and I fly on any day of the week. Let that sink in. Stop voting for these Jewish-controlled monsters who make this kind of thing possible. Now I refer back to what I said about Jewish and all the distinctions, so don't take it personally. Don't take it personally there, Steinberg. Okay? Let's see here. Alani was not charged with a terrorism-related offense. Well, that might just be a black eye to all the people who... why not? Why not? Doesn't this create terror? Are you gonna have just a tinge of terror the next time you get on a plane? Just a little. Just gonna come back to you what Uncle Benny said. What he put in your mind about God. Maybe the airlines have some dude doesn't even speak English, whose brother frickin' in ISIS or something, and he was just over there visiting him in March. And he's working on the mechanical systems of the plane I'm flying. Think about it. Hasn't been a big disaster in a little while, has there? You know when there'll be another one? Probably at the right time to fit some art of misdirection scheme. Let that sink in. Yeah, Does it suck to live in a world where, this is going on? Yeah, it's a wicked, wicked world. It's a world full of lies. And we have one Savior in Christ, and he's coming again. And we need to have our sins forgiven and trust that in the fullness of times he's going to return and that these things are going to happen. But fret not yourself because of evildoers, and don't be envious against the workers of lawlessness. That's what this guy is. Worker of lawlessness, worker of iniquity. They'll soon be cut down like the grass and wither as the green herb. It's from Psalm 37. I recommend when you get down and out about all the evil in the world and all the people, the powers that shouldn't be, read Psalm 37 top to bottom. So he was not charged with a terrorism-related offense. Right there, that's a bit of terrorism. That act of omission, in my opinion, is terrorism. However, prosecutors said at his detention hearing in September that FBI investigators learned Alani lied about taking a trip to Iraq. Puzzling evidence. In March to visit his brother. They also found out he told a fellow American Airlines employee in June, this is a month before he did this deed, that his brother had been kidnapped and was a member of the extremist Islamic group known as ISIS. Now, isn't that a problem? Think about this situation. He finds out his brother's kidnapped by ISIS. What will a man do to save his own skin? His own skin being not just his skin, but that of his family. That's a problem. We know your brother, he worked for American Airlines in Miami. We want him to do a deed for us, and you can go free. Think about it. This is why you don't have a guy with the name of Akdud Maplami, whatever, Muhammad, working on your planes. I'm not in charge here. I'm not in charge. There's more, but wait, there's more. Look at that. What other nuggets are we going to find in here of outrageous, just monkey shines? Prosecutor said Alani allowed the FBI to search. I don't think I read this far after this. He allowed the FBI to search his smartphone, and agents found a quote-unquote disturbing ISIS video in which a person was being shot in the head, and that he sent the video to someone with an Arabic message asking Allah to take a revenge against non-Muslims. Oh, wait, the paragraph before, Alani was not charged with a terrorism-related offense. Oh, you're right. He only did this so he could get a couple hours of overtime. Are you daft? Every one of these agents, everyone in law enforcement that is related to not charging him, or any evidence that was not thrown out because of real serious reasons, ought to be, plug your ears, they ought to be fucked, broken, and driven across the land into the sea. To quote Hunter S. Thompson. I don't like the F word. Not at all. But I think it's good for me to get a little outraged about this. It's good because, I tend towards apathy. It's like the world's going to hell in a handbasket, and I've kind of resigned myself. You know what? It's been going on since before I was born. It's only just getting exponentially worse. And by the time I've come of age and realized the things I don't know that I need to know, and I've sought to rectify that, because the educational system was a complete sham, a waste of many, many years of my life, and it was all, thank God I kicked and screamed all the way through. Thank God I had the spirit for that, and I attribute that to, I attribute it to God, the Lord, putting a spirit in me back when I was 7 or 8 years old. That's another story. Okay. All right, let's just try to get through this, all right, and still have a good day. In addition, they said Alani, Akdud Makadabadaba, sent $700 to someone in Iraq where he was born and has family. $700. At the detention hearing, prosecutor Maria Medidas told the magistrate judge that when federal investigators questioned Alani after his arrest on September 5th, he told them he had an evil side. Now, this is a technique where someone distances themselves of personal responsibility when they're caught, isn't it? Okay, in a sense. And that he wanted to do something to delay the plane to get overtime for maintenance repairs. There's a little bit of a, yeah, that's wrong. Anyway, moving on. After putting in a double shift on July 17th, he actually did some overtime work on the disabled plane. On average, he made $9,400 a month as an American mechanic. That's a nice chunk of change. Now that doesn't make sense either. I mean, this whole article is full of cognitive dissonance, which tells me this is a mind control piece of some ilk. Okay. Well, Uncle Benny, you say everything's mind control. You're just taking everything and saying it's mind control to fit your own. Okay. It is. And you're right. It is all mind control. I said long before fake news was ever a thing that most of the news is fake. One of these days I'll go pull up my Facebook records that I downloaded somewhere, and I'm going to find where I said it. And I remember specifically, I'm sure I'd said it before, but I remember specifically a post I made about that Japanese airliner or whatever it was that crashed in San Francisco, landed with no landing gear. And then there was a photo, I posted a photo or something of the underside of that airplane on a flatbed being hauled off the airstrip. And this was the one where the firefighter crew rushed out on the tarmac, and apparently a Chinese girl or Japanese, a woman was killed because she was run over as she was not seen in the fire foam. But this airplane was up on the flatbed being hauled off, and you remember it landed on its belly, okay? No scratches, scrapes, marks, or anything on the underside of that plane. And I made a post saying most of the news is fake. Let's see here. All right. In other words, most of the news is propaganda and mind control. Remember, it's like a law now that the federal government can propagandize to the American people, meaning tell them things that support their own political agendas or military agendas or whatever. Tell them things that aren't true. Exaggerate things. Omit things. That's propaganda for you. I remember growing up thinking, oh, it must be horrible to be a Russian and all you have is Pravda. God, what a dark place behind the Iron Curtain. Well, what curtain are we living behind? All right. Medidas said investigators also spoke with American Airlines pilot of the plane, and he said that without a functional navigation system, quote, it could have resulted in a crash. Now, you don't have to be a weatherman to tell that it's raining. Right? Exactly. Right. None of the passengers and crew on the flight. Remember, this is giving information, navigation information about it was somewhere up here. Well, it's not important. About pitch, meaning the Y and X yaw of the plane and the pitch of the plane, left or right, how it's tilting, nose to tail or wing to wing, and I think it was speed. All these things are critical when you're flying a plane. And I think I got off track there about the size of the plane at that moment. But like when you're flying, it's one thing if you're in a very small aircraft and you have a very good sense of up or down. When you're in a bigger plane, you need your instrument data. You really do. How do I know that? Well, again, you don't need to be a weatherman to know which way the wind blows or if it's raining. Okay. Let's see. None of the passengers were injured. Here it is. Because it caused an error alert as the pilots powered up the plane's engine on the runway. So that means what? It means when you get on a plane, generally the engines are running. They don't turn it on most times. They're already running. They're idling. You're loading up, boarding the plane, they're warming up. Then as you taxi out, they start to power up. It's that big roaring moment where things just escalate. whole plane starts to move, and it's moments before the thing starts to speed on down the runway. They power up the engines, not just turn them on. So that was a close call. In other words, right? Let's put it that way. It was a very close call. How far up in the air did they have to go before that navigation system might have caused them to have a big crisis and have to turn that plane around and land it? They could. As a result, flight number 2834 was aborted and taken out of service for routine maintenance at the hangar, which is when the tampering with the air data module system was discovered during inspection. An AA mechanic found a loosely connected tube in front of the nose gear underneath the cockpit that had been deliberately obstructed with some sort of hard foam material. According to the complaint affidavit, Alani glued the foam in the tube leading from outside the American Airlines plane to its air data module. As a result, if the plane had taken off that day from MIA, the pilot would have had to operate the aircraft manually because the ADM system would not have received any computer data. Now, he said, remember, that he just wanted some overtime. Well, this means that this would not have been discovered until the plane was going to take off or was flying. That he may have expected this. I mean, my point is, this overtime story is a load of rubbish. It's just another wicked lie. Federal Air Measures zeroed in on Alani, who had worked as an American Airlines mechanic since '88, after reviewing video footage that captured him exiting a white truck on the morning of July 17th at Concourse D and approaching the plane, which had just arrived from Orlando. The footage showed Alani, who walks with a limp, accessing the aircraft's compartment where the navigation system was located. Alani spent about 7 minutes doing the sabotage. Interviews with 3 other mechanics who were with Alani after he tampered the plane helped investigators identify him from the footage. In response to the news of Alani's guilty plea, his former employer, American Airlines, issued a statement. "We are grateful for the work of the FBI, the U.S. Office, and other officials in resolving this matter." I'd say the matter's unresolved, American Airlines. You're hiring people like this? What do people like this means? It means a foreigner. I don't even care if he immigrated here illegally. He frickin' can't speak English, apparently. Been to Iraq. Probably flew American, right? Or did he? I don't know. I don't know. American Airlines go to Iraq? Probably. American Airlines has fully cooperated throughout the investigation after we learned about the infected aircraft that Mr. Alani had worked on to ensure that they were safe. How about you inspect all the other mechanics at every frickin' airport and hub American Airlines goes to? I think they need a shakedown. If I was king of the land, they'd have a shutdown and a shakedown. And like Brother Nathaniel said about the Zyocrats, they shouldn't be in office. I've said this. Neither should Catholics, because they are dual citizenship. Neither should Israeli dual citizen people. They shouldn't be in office. And neither should Islamic people. And by in office, do I just mean anything that affects your rights? These people with conflicts of interest who are enemies of you, of me, should not be in these positions. Shouldn't be brain surgeons. They shouldn't be heart doctors. Well, is it? Well, I'm tired of the hatred against you. What if your father, brother, sister, mother, grandmother, grandfather, what if they were on that flight? Now you get in the picture? Well, that's just a lone wolf. Is it? All right, well, I may have just been shut down. I'm not sure. I'm not seeing a stream. Okay, so at any rate, I don't know if this is still going on, but all right, that was a lot of fun, wasn't it? Unfortunately, no comments. Often the best articles. Well, maybe there are. Let's see here. No comments. Okay. All right, let's move on. Oh, this is worth talking about. Study estimates that half of U.S. adults will be obese by 2030. Well, I'm not so sure that we're not there. Look, I'm no skinny mini. I got some issues too, but they're for a lot of reasons that are not the reasons other Americans are obese. And let me just break it down for you. Our food is compromised, and it's a conspiracy as well. It just is. It's not a theory, man. Love of money is the root of all evil. The whole world's a business. And you and I are cattle, and they're going to feed us GMO corn if it's cheaper. They're going to feed us things that have been genetically modified from the way God intended them, or they're going to create a food pyramid as the powers that shouldn't be and tell us what we should be eating, more of this, that, and the other, and raise us to be acclimated to that through the government schools. Okay. It's alarming, said a nutrition expert who wasn't in the study, but Dr. Lawrence at Johns Hopkins University. We're going to have some pretty awful problems, medically and financially, because so many people weigh too much, he said. Yeah, being overweight causes massive problems that are lifelong. They have a lot of social and societal implications, all right? Obesity rates raise the risk of heart disease, stroke, diabetes, cancer, other health problems. All right, let's move on. I want to get to something I read earlier. Okay. It may seem like a contradiction, but often people who can least afford food weigh the most. Now, right there is the key of the kingdom here. Cheap food leads to obesity. And by cheap food, I mean poor quality food. Yes, it may also be inexpensive and tends to be. It's just sad that through a myriad of pressures and conditions, people are being made weaker and weaker, dumber and dumber, including me. I've been affected by it all. You know, you've got endocrine disruptors, you've got hormones put into foods, you've got, and you know, it may not be in the food itself, but it's in the sources of the food. And it's just, you know, how deep it goes, it's just astounding. It's hard to even, you could spend a life of study just on this issue and understanding it, right? It's been going on a long time. It says, even though obesity rates are falling, new diabetes cases are declining. I find that hard to believe. I'd have to see what they're talking about, and, you know, suggesting progress in recognizing, treating early signs of the disease. Okay, well, that doesn't mean that somebody doesn't have diabetes just because they have pre-diabetes and you get them on medication. Okay, I mean, that's just a way of obfuscating the truth of the matter. You become obese, you have insulin resistance, you are a diabetic. That's all there is to it. You know, you ain't got to be a weatherman to know which way the wind blows, son. All right, there you go. Keep that in mind. Severe obesity will most common weight category in 44 states whose average household income is under $20,000, but in only one state where income is over $50,000. And that might be relative too. In that state, that may be like having $20,000 a year. So let me just summarize this: that the poor get poorer while the rich get richer. And ain't no wrong with being rich, but I'm talking about the rich, powerful, who shouldn't be, the people who create the policies for the lunch programs of the United States, for nutrition, for the FDA, for all these things that are controlled by lobbyists who are parts of secret societies, whose secret societies are actually religious orders, who are in league with Lucifer, basically, all the way to the top. And those creatures. What are you talking about, Uncle Benny? You should be sectioned. You're crazy. Am I? Let's read some people's comments. Because sometimes they crack me up. Half of all adults and 100% of my Tinder matches. It's funny. 2019, 40% are already obese and 60% are already overweight. This proves there is too much free handouts out there. You have 110 million working-aged adults without even a part-time job. Stop all the handouts and entitlements to working-aged adults. If you don't pay your own way, why do you think you deserve to eat and spend other people's money? Oh, there's an angry person. I don't. The poor should always be with us, and charity is means there's always going to be a need for charity and people getting handouts. So they're just frustrated. I get it. I would have guessed we hit 50% 10 years ago. I would have too. And again, I'm not fat shaming anyone. I'm fat. I don't like my body right now. I've been working on it. There's a lot of reasons for it. And another aspect I meant to mention is that the amount of stress. We're being terrorized on a daily basis. You're terrorized. You read the news, you're terrorized. What do I mean by that? We're taught to think terror is just a bomb going off unexpectedly in a cafe, or somebody hijacking your airplane, or somebody, a couple of guys that shoot up a place in the name of, Allah Akbar or whatever. Okay, so that's not terrorism. That's not the only examples of. Okay, I'm stumbling on my words here. That's not terrorism as I would define it. It's all based on fear, right? So when the news is mostly fear-mongering and fear instilling, that's terrorism. It's creating terror. In the last days, men's hearts shall fail them for the things that are coming on the earth. They'll fail them because of fear. Heart attacks, stress-related, right? Obesity is stress-related. Why is it stress-related? Well, I don't understand it all, but from what I can gather, cortisol is something that your body releases during stress. And it helps. It makes your body effectually stores things as fat. I don't know. Look into it yourself. But cortisol is released, and if you're under constant stress, meaning unrelenting stress, then your body is going to tend to be fatter, basically. Let's see. For those dudes that love plumpers, 2030 will be awesome. Yeah. Oh man, never miss the comment section. It's just like everyone's a videographer. There's some funny people out there that make me laugh. Among U.S. women, I think we hit this number around 2005. It's funny. This guy's self-deprecating. Guess I'm ahead of the curve. He's fat already. That's funny. Let's see here. Ever consider that the more the government has given us food triangles and such, the fatter the population has gotten? Could they be causing it? Ken, now you're talking. Man, you're picking up what I'm laying down. You are correct. Ding, ding, ding. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. I think you're onto something, bro. All right. Oh, that's hideous. I forgot what movie that's from. One of the one of the Austin Powers ones. I recommend Ecitine Cure and Reverse Heart Disease, and 2 Grieger, How Not to Die and How Not to Diet. I've lost 2 stone and have more energy than I did 50 years ago. That's good. See, that's really good. Loss of energy, and I've experienced this, not just simply because, I'm heavier than I used to be, but when you don't have energy, you're a lot less productive, a lot less, You don't even sleep as well when you're overweight. It's like something being out of balance. It's just the wobble gets wobblier. It has a lot of ramifications. Anyway, the Department of Agriculture has killed more Americans than all the wars our nation has ever participated in. Americans, quote unquote, eat and drink chemicals that God and evolution never meant for the human body. See, people know what's going on. This is why the mortality rates are increasing and the average lifespan of the American is beginning to decline. I don't know if they are or not. I think, I don't know. I think somebody could probably contradict that part of it. But just because you live longer doesn't mean you're living better. Think about that, all right? I'd rather live 50 healthy years than, 50 healthy years and then 50 disease-ridden, horrible, weak, suffering years. 100 years total. You see what I mean? By 2030, I guess they've been cutting down on the calories. Not sure I understand that. Sugarcoating. Things started going downhill when the PC culture of be happy with your fat body, lack of caring how one presents oneself, slacking of dressing more formal, such as workplaces, and general laziness factor. He's a bit cynical. He's got some points in here that are true. I think this was more a result than the cause. All right, let's see here. I'd love to know what the obesity rate is among Trump supporters versus liberal Democrats. I suspect Trumpsters have really bad diets with a lot of dollar store processed food. What else could explain their level of insanity? Oh, wow. That was a convoluted way of making this political and jabbing at the other side. Could be flipped right back around. Turnabout's fair play. Okay. This will save Social Security. Well, that's true. And that's part of the conspiracy, by the way. 2030. Have you been to Walmart lately? Yeah. I think we can all relate to this. But you know what? Have you ever been in Walmart and thought, you know what? How am I special? Don't I look just the same? What makes me so special? Am I that beautiful? Nope. I didn't dress up to go to Walmart. I'm wearing a t-shirt and baggy jeans or something. I'm not fixing to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. So I think when we're at Walmart or the BMV, which are kind of bywords for places that you see a slice of humanity that you just think, good night, Like, really, you came out in public like that? I mean, that's what they're saying, okay? Not just dress, but you see some interesting things. I think you can go find a website on Walmart pictures and things like this. It's sad but funny, but it also, there's a lot of truth in it that make the joke like this funny. So the fact is, it really ought to evoke a lot of compassion for us because people are victims. Yeah, they do it to themselves in a sense, but they're conditioned to do so. I mean, it's almost like they're set up to fail. People are. Go to the grocery store and look at everything that's on offer. And we're also raised to like FDA approved, FDA grade A, B, C, like all these things, like it's stamped with the government approval. All the ingredients that were put on the boxes, it's like, well, it's on the box. They're showing us it must be good. We're kind of laughing in your face. What if they listed arsenic, cyanide, all this stuff on there, and FDA approved? Would you still eat it? No, because those things are toxic poisons. But the thing is, when you see something on an ingredient label that says natural flavors, what you don't know, going back to those Jewish convoluted Talmudic ways of understanding laws in a legalistic fashion to get around them. What am I talking about? Back when I said that when you like a Jew on the Sabbath might be precluded from starting a fire to keep the law, but he asked you for a light for a cigarette. Do you see? Or he asks you to drive him across town in the taxi, but he can't travel on the Sabbath except over water, so he sits on a water bottle. It's the same thing. We're going to put the ingredients, but we're going to disguise them as natural flavors. Well, natural flavors doesn't mean it's natural or natural flavors. These are chemical compounds. There's a whole bunch of them that can be legally called natural flavors and not identified. Did you know that? So when you see natural flavors, don't think for a minute that that's necessarily something good, natural, or not bad for you. Okay? It may be a reason it's being hidden, and they have created laws that allow them to classify them and only mention them as natural flavors. Did you know that? What else don't you know? Okay? I knew I was ahead of my time. I've been obese for decades. Oh, people are funny. I mean, I don't want to load. I'm not going to hit load again, but I just could read these sometimes. I can just get lost in comments sometimes because once you get a few real golden nuggets, you'd like, there's got to be more gold here. Comic gold. One more sign that the USA is headed down the gutter. Ding, ding, ding. You're right. At least poor people aren't starving, though. That's kind of profound in a way, what he said, what Anonymous said. Here's how it is. Carbs make you fat. It's that simple. Stop eating carbs. That means no bread, no pasta, no potatoes, no fruit, no garbage food. The weight will fall off. You want pizza? Great, but don't eat the crust. Fat is not your enemy. Refined flour and sugar are, though. Burgers are fine. Throw the buns in the trash. Now, this person is obviously in a ketogenic diet, and I have been too. It does work, but there are some considerations. It's not the be-all and end-all way to eat. But it is a method of dropping weight, and bread in and of itself is not bad. Fruit in and of itself is not bad or not fit for humans to eat and things like that. But this person is wanting to put on the brakes in their own life, has gained a deal of knowledge, and also sharing how somebody else can. But anyway, I really want to hit show more and just sit here and talk about this, but I gotta go. So do you. Effing nasty a Jew. Stunning video shows full-blown hate in New York. Now this beautiful woman, Jewish woman, actually I watched this video yesterday. She was on a New York subway, sat down next to a Jewish man, and a woman across the aisle was just insulting him because he was a Jew. Now, this is interesting. This makes headline news. This is the scratch she has. We don't see the video of the fight and everything, but this woman, you can watch this. You can find it. I don't know who this woman is. She could be just mentally ill, but she was fairly well dressed, versus being just a street person who's off their meds and full of maybe demonically possessed and all that. It was just this whole speech, the way she's made up. I mean, this little scratch right here is just almost look contrived. Did we ever hear? Did this woman get arrested for assault? I haven't seen that yet. Didn't see it in the article yesterday, but that would warrant her being arrested, and she wasn't arrested. They showed her detained. So I find this story a bit questionable. It just is another one of those things, and be advised, these mini staged events are not new. They happen. There's a wave, they're going to see more and more of it, especially now since that executive order was enforced that I shared earlier. You say one thing, like, for example, this video could be considered hate speech, most likely. Anti-Semitic. Well, it's not, right? The fact is, she's a dual citizen, first of all. Secondly, when you watch her recite this, it does look like she's reading off a script at times. This could easily be makeup. It seems very odd that she was not arrested. It just stinks. But anyway, there you go. Plays the victim. Maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. So what happened was this woman who is apparently a Muslim repeatedly chants Allahu Akbar and do not mess with us. It's in the Quran. And she, curses the people. And this woman, Lihi Aaron, scratched on her face in the attack, turns this into a whole full-blown assault against her people, okay? And that, don't mess with us, she ends the whole thing. And then she's being hailed as a Israeli Jewish hero, embodies a spirit which all Jews must learn from. Jews were kicked out of 100 countries across the earth. Ask yourself why. Now, does this mean every person who's a Jew? You can't look at people like that. There's good people everywhere. In every culture, there are some good people. And you cannot, just because someone raised in a certain way, there are different factions in each one of these. I hate to have to keep repeating that, but it's like I gotta dumb down my people get so offended. They don't understand. They don't want to take words you say and twist them, or put words in your mouth you didn't say, or force you to equivocate and I don't know. Anyway, I gotta go. Make it a great day.